Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we will start the first lecture about eradication of external parasite. In this course, we will know some definitions. We will know more about the harms of the ectoparasite and the types of skin parasite. Then we will take the types of ticks, the life cycle of ticks, and the eradication programs used for tick control. First of all, we will start with some definitions about the course, including what is ectoparasite. Ectoparasite is any arthropod which spends all or some portion of their life parasitizing on the skin of livestock or poultry. In some cases, the parasite may be totally dependent on the host, in which it describes as obligatory parasitism. Usually, the host provides a number of important resources to the ectoparasite, including the source of food as a blood, nymph, or sweat, feather, or hair, and the environment to live to support the generating warmth and moisture within the skin or feather of the host, and finally a mean of transportation from place to another place. So when we say we want to speak about pests, so pests means any fungus, insect, nematode, rodent, or other form of terrestrial or aquatic life that cause injury to human or livestock. So when we speak about pesticide, usually people think that we want to kill the pests, but actually the term is slightly larger than that. If you just make a kill or just you make any type of control to break down its life cycle as disturb the growth of the pests that include pesticides. So when we want to speak more concise in this course, we usually speak about insect and insecticides. It's a type of pesticide that used to kill insects or to disrupt their growth, or as a result of the harms of ectoparasite activity on the animal. We can see that the transmission of disease to the host either mechanically through ulcers of the skin, or the secondary infection due to the tick bite, or transmission of toxins as tick paralysis. Also, toxic and allergic responses could be due to the infection or infestation due to insecticide. Usually, the skin gets infected and cause skin perforation. The skin perforation usually cause deterioration of the wool and hide, which led to the low productivity of the animal, including even the hide, meat, milk, or egg production. All that happened as a result of insecticide caused a loss of energy to the host and cause exhaustion of circulation, especially if in case of ticks, which cause sucking of blood and cause severe anemia in animals and poultry. All that led to reducing the viability and resistance of animals. In this course, we will speak about types of insecticides we are much concerned about, including ticks, mites, lice, and fleas. Of course, there are hundreds or thousands of insects or ectoparasite, but those 4 species are the most common types that cause injuries to animal and poultry. So we will start with the ticks. Ticks had 2 major types, the hard and soft ticks. Actually, the hard ticks is Ixodes family, and the soft ticks is Argazidae family. The difference between the hard and soft ticks are, first of all, the hard ticks usually infest the large animal, which is usually characterized by the presence of hard shield on the dorsal plate. However, the soft tick had a very soft exoskeleton that covers the body. The hard ticks usually attach to mammals, and while the soft ticks usually attach to the birds. The intermittent feed in the soft ticks is characterized, which usually resulted in multiple hosts. However, in hard ticks, usually it attached to one host and remain attached after they eat. The number of eggs by the hard ticks may be from 2,000 to 4,000 of eggs. However, in the soft ticks, usually it's from 300 to 500 eggs. The life cycle of hard ticks, which is one host, usually a mammal, usually starts with a non-parasitic stage of development, at which the engorged female ticks with eggs dropped on the ground. Usually it takes from 3 to about 50 days to lay the first egg, and this is called the pre-oviposition period. Actually, the temperature is a key determined here in the how long the life cycle will be according to the temperature. For example, if the temperature is high, usually the period or the stage of the life cycle is fast, and the cooler the temperature, the longer the life cycle. So we start with the pre-oviposition period, at which the engorged female with eggs dropped lay the first eggs. Then the oviposition period, at which the female lay all the eggs, which is from 2,000 to 4,000 eggs, and then start the incubation period, at which the eggs start to hatch. When the incubation period ends, and all eggs become hatched, that is the hatching period. After the hatching period, the egg become larva. This larva had a longevity period. It's very important period when we are thinking about a control program, especially if we want to make a physical control, because at this period, if the larva didn't find a suitable host, it will die after the longevity period end, which is from 40 to 45 days in summer and from 100 to 105 days in winter. So if the larva didn't find a host, it will die. But if the larva find a susceptible host, so we will complete the second stage of development, which is the parasitic stage of development on a host. On a host, the life cycle become more and more rapid. The larva will start to suck the blood and start to molt to nymph. Then the nymph take from 5 to 11 days and give an adult. And after 5 to about 30 days, the adult become mature and become male and female, start the mating on the host and start the cycle again on a non-parasitic stage on the ground. So here we can say that the parasitic stage of the development usually in the host, starting from the larva, nymph and adult stage and mating, and the non-parasitic stage usually it's on the environment. The large hard tick, the adult tick usually appear from here this is the photo from under the tail, and the ticks, the mature ticks appear by the naked eyes. The life cycle of the soft ticks. When we speak about soft tick, that means multiple hosts, maybe 2 hosts or 3 hosts or more than 1 host. So this is the soft tick. It's smaller in size, and usually the life cycle, the non-parasitic and parasitic stage is intermittent, as it's intermittent feeding. Usually the tick starting from the larva on the animal or on the poultry or on the bird body, go and suck blood, then go to the environment again, then go to the next stage of development, and for example from larva to nymph to adult, it go to more than 1 host, maybe from the same species or different bird according to the birds in the place. Here this is the Argus species in the molting stage from the larva, nymph to adult, and there is multiple species of host bird involved. This is the picture of the soft tick or Argus on a poultry, and the deterioration of the skin and the problems in the feather which occur due to the infestation. Actually, usually we say infestation, not infection, because infection usually when we speak about bacteria or virus, but when we speak about insects, usually we say infestation. The eradication program used in ticks. When we speak about eradication program, we first say how much money I have to spend in eradication of ticks. For example, the money available is the key, but the facility available is another important factor. Of course, the number of animals involved in the farm and the area and the type of parasite the type of the host, the relevant environmental condition, and the control program which I should take to make the control. Actually, there are two types of control program. For example, the strategic or intensive control program. Usually, when we speak about eradication, we first see the type of product which come from the farm. For example, if you make intensive control, that means you will make a chemical intensive treatment of the animals, which is repeated maybe 2 or 3 times until the complete disappear of infestation from ticks. Of course, this is cost a lot of money, but the most important is the health or the type of product. It will not a green product, which means that it may contain some residue that could interfere with if you want to make a green production. So it guarantees that after some time you will get rid completely of the infestation, but at the same time it costs a lot of money, and there is much concern about the animal health and the animal product and byproduct, and the most important is the effect on the environment from the use of this chemical control, especially if it's intensive. So the second thing is the strategic control. Nowadays, the strategic control is take much more attention, because you not kill all the insects at the same time, but you just make the number of ticks less. So it's a plan you should apply to use a minimum chemicals and start to use other methods as physical control and integrated control program. And from time to time, you have to make a good observation of the cases and the assessment from time to time to be sure that you are at a safe level of infestation that not cause a great harm to the animals. The eradication program of ticks depend on 3 major concepts: the physical control, the chemical control, and finally the integrated control program. The integrated control program, it's a new direction in the control of ticks. Usually it's used in ticks because maybe other insect type not suitable for it. So starting with the physical control, when we speak about ticks, we should think about where should I make the control? Is it on the animal body alone, or on the environment alone, or I have to do both? If we look at the life cycle, we can find different stages of development in either the non-parasitic stage in the environment and the parasitic stage on the host. So that means the control program should undertake in both environment and animal. For example, if we make the physical control in animal, first the steps or the ordinary steps for the biosecurity in each farm, including the avoid cracks and crevices in the building, the management of fecal matter and waste of the animal, avoid the manure heaps, and you can make a separate housing of different species together at the same place, and make an ectoparasite channel encircle the entire building. What is the ectoparasite? It's usually it's an expression which used when we want to control the ticks and mites. For ticks and mites, we use the expression ectoparasite. This channel usually encircle around the building. So if there is a visitor or a car or food, any food that enter the farm or the building, if it's multiple buildings, should dip the food inside it. So if there is any stage of the parasite, it will be eradicated. The most important thing in the physical control measurements is the quarantine. Of course, if you purchase a new animal and put to your herd, you have to be sure before mixing with your herd that it's free from any stage of ticks included. Last thing is if the number of infestation is small, so you can make a manual removal of ticks using a forceps. Actually, this method should ensure that you remove the entire tick, including its head and mouth, using a forceps which grasp it upward. So after that, you can make clean the area with a disinfectant as alcohol or iodine. This is usually in case of slight infestation. The physical control of ticks on the environment. The animal may live in a stable or in a pasture. When we want to choose how to make a physical control in a pasture where the animal is grazing in a place, we can just make depopulation or preventing the animal for grazing in this area and choose another area, maybe beside or neighbor it. Allow the animal to graze until the longevity period of the larva is end, and then allow the animal again to this place. The second thing is the rotational grazing. The rotational grazing is if you have a limited place of or limited area for animal grazing, so you can just divide the pasture into two parts and allowing the animal to one division. This act will make as a collector of ticks in this division, and treat the animal with any suitable chemical, then stay in this division until the longevity period, which is usually varies according to the climate and weather in the place. And after the longevity period, allow the animal to the other division after treatment the animal, and stay a period for the longevity period for the larvae to die. So if they didn't find a suitable host. If you want to make control of ticks on a stable, So it's according to the type of stable. If the stable is an old one, you can just burn and reconstruct a new one in another place. But if it's a good building, so just remove the waste and close the crevices and make spraying of the building with a suitable insecticide, then allow the animal after treatment of the animal to the building again. The chemical control program include the early compounds as arsenic and sulfur, and this group of chemical are banned. The arsenic had a severe and profuse damage to the environment, so it's banned and not used frequent now. The group of neurotoxins as organochlorine compound, which is banned for more than 20 years because of the environmental impact. Also belong to the neurotoxins group, there is organophosphate compound, which is used frequent now as diazinon and malathion and carbamates. Another chemical group include the insect growth regulator as the juvenile growth hormone and using a repellent as pyrethrin. The application method for the chemical control, including in the environment which target the larva or egg of the ticks, while on the animal it includes dipping, spraying, pour-on, dusting, and injection. First of all, when we want to speak about dipping had several precautions when we want to use, including the site of dipping and the material to construct the dip and the dimension and depth of the dip, which mainly according to the type of animal and the size of the herd. And of course, when we use any chemical control, we have to read carefully the label and instruction before using it. And there is a precaution concerning the animal before dipping and precaution concerning the animal after dipping. And there's a precaution concerning the attendants or the man who is responsible for making the dipping process. Of course, for the animal before dipping, there is a concern about the weather and if the animal had any wounds or in a stress condition, including fatigue or young or pregnant animal in late stages of pregnancy. Of course, we have to be sure from the steep slope and sudden drop of the animal to ensure that all the animal body and head are completely immersed in the depth solution. The most important thing is to avoid the aircraft and extensive sun rays during choosing the day of the dip. The drug withdrawal period and human safety should be also conserved. The construction of the dip, the animal is completely should be immersed in the dipping compound and move along the dip vat to ensure that the insecticide is contact with the body for at least 1 or 1.5 minutes. This is the figure or a photo for the depth or plunger depth, which ensure the collecting pen of the animal and the southern slope of the animal and the swimming of the animal for about 2 minutes, then a sloping exit to be sure from the dropping of the animal before allowing to the pasture for at least 15 minutes. Second application method is the spraying method. We can use the spray races. The spray races usually if we have a large number of animal and the animal walks through the race, so all the body will cover with the spray of the dipping of the insecticide compound. We can use the mechanical spraying for large animal, and this machine is a movable machine, so we can use from different place to another place. If you have a small herd, you can use a hand spraying. But you have to ensure that the spraying or the insecticide material covers all the body, especially the hidden places of the animal body, which is under the tail or inside the ears or under the ears or at the grinds or at the axilla place. So all this place should be guarantee that it's the insecticide material reach these places unless there is no important of the spraying. So we can use the pour-ons application for the insecticide if the weather is not suitable to make the dipping or the spraying. So and the infestation is in limited place on the animal body. So we just use the pour-ons, which is applied on the back of the animal, and usually it's with higher concentration of the insecticide material. If the infestation is on a large place on the animal or take the whole animal body, so it's better to use injection with the insecticide material. So precautions during chemical control of ticks. We have to take care of the toxicity to the animal, especially if there is a species sensitivity or a breed sensitivity when we apply the insecticide, and we have to take care of the side effects which could happen due to application of chemical insecticide. And we have to be sure from the overdose if we use intensive control program and make repeat of the insecticide or didn't follow the labels and instruction of the insecticides. We have to be sure also from the combination treatment if the animal is suffering from another problem or taking another medicine. So we have to be sure that there is no adverse or danger on using both combination treatment. And we have to be sure that the residue of residual potential, either the slaughter interval or the freshness interval. What is the difference between slaughter and freshness interval? Actually, slaughter interval, if we raise an animal for a meat production, so we have to take care from the time of applying the insecticide on the animal body and the withdrawal period of this insecticide from the body. So we are not allowed to slaughter the animal until this period is already withdrawn. However, the freshness interval, usually we use this expression when we take a product from the animal, for example, egg production or milk production. So the freshness interval is to allowing the animal for milking but discard the milk and not use for human consumption unless the withdrawal period is already elapsed. So avoid also to use a chemical insecticide if the animal is under another stress, maybe from shipping, from vaccination, from dehorning or castration, or animal is already suffering from a disease or any case that caused the animal to be exhausted. The action of applying a chemical insecticide is a stress, so we are not allowed to let the animal under two types of stress at the same time. So at the same time, not allowed for two stress. The most important thing and the most important concern of using a chemical control is its environmental problem or concern. The insecticides used when we make dipping of the animal or a large amount of spraying of insecticide, it could have a potential to damage the environment. Actually, it reaches the environment from dipping, from poor setting and maintenance of the dipping structure, which could cause leakage of the structure and start to reach the environment, either the groundwater and make contamination or pollution to it. Also, it could reach the environment after the poor disposal arrangement after dipping, or during dipping, the splashing of the dip solution to the around area, and the disposal of spent dip. What is the spent dip? The spent dip is the amount of insecticide solution that remaining in the plunger dip after the end of the day when we finish the dipping operation. Actually, all that action contribute to a high risk to the environment. It could make a pollution to the surface and groundwater. It could make pollution also. The pollution could be extended to the land, and of course it make a bad consequences to the plant or to the animal and human who consume these plants and so on. Because of that, we have to take care how to eradicate or how to get rid of the spent dip. We make an important operation which is called stripping. Stripping usually is the when we make a frequent when a lot of large animal being dipped, so the hide and cover of the animal usually had a organic matter from the feather and dirt on it. So usually from 3 to 5% organic matter that make an activation of the DEP ingredient. Because of that, from time to time, we make enforcement or reinforcement of the insecticide to be in the accurate concentration on the label. Because of that, we come with an idea that if we add organic matter to the spent DEP after finishing the DEPing operation, so that could make inactivation of the insecticide material. So we can use add a organic matter to the spent DEP. The problem is this organic matter from the fecal matter could have a lot of pathogens, for example, coliform, strep, clostridium, and all that pathogens could have bad consequences on the environment as well. So to minimize the action of the organic matter and its bacterial infection, so we can add a bacteriostat. Actually, also we can add a bacteriostat if we will make another, if we use this DEP solution for the next time, and it's the maximum time to use only for 2 days, so we can add a bacteriostat at the end of the day to be able to use in the next day. So another environmental concern is if we use the pyrethroids. These pyrethroids are generally safe and effective than the organophosphate compound, especially in mammals. But the problem is the spent DEP or the insecticide if it's organophosphate compound, if it reaches the water source, it's highly toxic to the aquatic organisms, maybe 2 to 3 order of magnitude more toxic than the toxicity of in mammals. So because of that, we try to be sure that it will not mix with the surface or groundwater. Another thing is if we use the pour-on application of insecticide on animal, that will be more safe because there is no environmental impact will suffer or from pollution damage due to the pour-on application on animals. Thank you.